Welcome to another episode of Reseller Evolution. I'm Scott.
And I'm Carl.
And we are on podcast number 13.
Lucky 13, yeah.
Lucky 13, yeah. So what's new, Carl? What's the week like for you?
Well, it got worse. It seems like I'm in bad juju right now. But that's things have slowed down online a little bit, but I haven't been listing. I've been dealing with a bunch of stuff. I'm doing exciting stuff like my taxes. That's been so exciting. But eventually I got to the point where it was bugging me so much. It's like, okay, I better get started. At least now, I've been doing it for a few years. I have it kind of not pat, but less running around looking for papers. And I haven't really been thrifting that much. Like I said, I've been kind of busy I don't know doing what, but apart from that, I had a Facebook sale. Unfortunately, there's something wrong with it. It was like a Starbucks espresso machine, so I'm gonna have to go pick that up. And Facebook Marketplace is what it is. It always seems to, for me, I prefer buying off of there than selling. How was your week?
My week was pretty good. I mean, the antique booth continues to just boggle my mind as far as how good it's doing.
Right.
Got some changes actually coming up, so I guess I can discuss them on the show because it's pretty much what's going on now. It's already official. But some other people have a very large booth upstairs next to my big, large booth, and they're not doing that great. So they're downsizing. And in order to do that, they have to move into my small booth that I have now. So, the middle of the month, I've been asked if I would do this. And what I'm going to do is take all the stuff out of the small booth, put it in my big booth for one day so they can move everything from their large booth into their small booth and then take the rest home. And then I will have one day where I have to wait because they're going to build a wall. And then I'm going to take all that stuff out of there and put it in my booth. So this is all going to happen over 2 days where we're closed.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun and exciting for sure. But you know what? I'm going to take the opportunity to clear out a lot of the crap that's in there and kind of start fresh. Because a lot of times what you do is you have things around because you pick differently, 2 or 3 years ago, and this stuff is just kind of hanging around. I normally wouldn't pick that kind of stuff anymore. No. Or, maybe it was just wrong. Well, nothing big usually. I just can reduce the price and I can usually sell it. But there are things that I get on these trade lots at auctions and different things where it just sits around for a long time because it was probably something I didn't pick, but because it's free, I try to get a couple bucks out of it, which sometimes is good strategy, but to let it linger for too long is bad strategy. So, you know what I mean? Because it is costing you money to take up that space. But anyway, so those are things that are in the works and they'll be happening in April. And everything else has been going well. The downstairs booth is just, I can't believe the difference in sales downstairs compared to upstairs. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do some video on it. I'm going to start doing some pre-records. I know I've said that a long time, but I've actually got things sorted out to the point where, and we'll see because I got a bunch of sourcing coming up. So that might just put a whole damper on everything around here. But right now I have everything set up the way I like it so that I can actually work in it. And it feels fun to work in it. So
fun, yeah. You have to keep things fun. If it feels like a job, why are we doing it?
The whole thing that makes it not fun is when you start moving things around from here to there to there to here to in a box, out of a box, on a shelf. That irritates me when I keep seeing product all the time. And I'm just too busy to list it or to deal with it because I got so much other shit I have to deal with. And
that's with me in the basement too. It's like what I really can't stand is moving inventory from spot to spot to spot.
Yeah,
and it's easy to do, but I think I've gone a lot better now at just listing the stuff. And if I am going to move it, there has to be a good reason, like getting your windows done. But then, because otherwise, you just create a bunch of busy work for yourself.
But now I have it so I can everything I have come in now I can process immediately. It's not the super ideal, but it's
No.
very workable now. Where before
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like I'd put stuff in a box, set it somewhere, and forget I even had it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I do
Like
know what you mean.
I
Years
just got
later,
it.
you open it up and you're like, "What is this?" You've forgotten what you've bought. It's like you have like a $300 thing sitting in a box for 3 years. Like,
Yeah,
why is this not listed? What this is good money. I would be excited to find this now.
yeah. When did I get that poker table? Well before Christmas. And in that I had a box of jewelry, and I'm just actually getting to it, and there's a $400 14 karat gold Bolival sitting in there. I
Ah,
didn't
just
even
pour
know it was there.
just gold and diamonds just lying
Yeah,
around.
just sitting there. So I can't wait to dig into the other stuff. I hope there's lots of that. But I'm like, wow, I didn't even know this was here. But
Yeah.
now everything I get going forward, I'm going to deal with and process immediately. And then when I have like time, I'm going to start picking away at what I have. And I think that's going to work best of both worlds because I can keep picking and I
Yeah.
kind of have backup inventory. You know what I mean? So things are selling so quick, so well out of the booth right now. It's allowing me to get that excess inventory that's been sitting around for a while. So if sales keep going the way they are, um, I'll definitely be able to get to that stuff because I have lots of room at the booth, right? So I can just get out of here and into the booth. It's selling, and I can keep replacing it, and at the same time still work on eBay and stuff too.
Sounds
So,
like you're in a good place right now.
uh, I think so. Like, I mean, if I could snap my fingers and have everything listed on eBay and into the booth, like that would be perfect.
Well, if you figure that out, can you teach me to do that? Because that would be nice.
But dude, you know what though? Like, this is going to sound probably a little bit insane in
Okay.
theory, but
Right.
I really think like if you look at a watch made of 14 karat gold and
Right.
it's $400 and it sits in a box, and I've got tons of boxes, and I got cars and die casts and stuff that actually have some good value, and I'm talking like $100, $200, $50, but I got tons of watches, I got cameras, books,
Yeah.
like I got garage full of stuff, I got a basement half full of stuff. Like when you stop and think, if that it was all listed today, how much in retail value? Like,
It
I
wouldn't
mean,
take
do
much
I?
to get to like $50 to $100,000, just like that.
I'm thinking between 100 and 200. Like
Oh yeah.
in not in money, but in actual retail. Like if I was,
Gross.
so it doesn't mean
Yeah.
everything's going to sell, but if I
No.
was just saying, if I had a retail store and I could inventory everything at retail prices, because it doesn't take much for $500 to be in a small little box.
No. Especially when it's made out of gold and diamonds.
Yeah, well, that's a little. I wish I had all boxes full of that, but I don't. But no, 100%. But I'm just saying, like a
I
video.
agree. Like you get coins, like coins can have high value in small little areas, or watches, like you said, or like
Like
DSs, or like
I have,
fountain pens, like all that stuff.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I have
Yeah.
Waterman fountain pens. I have watches that are Seiko, and it doesn't even
Yeah.
matter if they're worth $50, not even working.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, there's so much stuff and books and magazines that
Yeah.
they don't take up any room. You know what I mean? So
It
if
is
I
nice.
actually get to them, like, do I have 2,000 things worth $100? Well, I probably have 10,000 things or more. I might have 20,000 items. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just break it down however you want. But if you do, like, I look at it this way: do I have 2,000 things that I could probably get $100 out of?
All you have to do is list it. It's just a small little thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got like,
You can kind of see why people hire people eventually
yeah,
to do that stuff, especially in a way. If you hire someone and they're sitting there and you're paying them like whatever $20 an hour, you kind of want to make sure you get your money out of them too, so it can kind of be motivating to get
no,
your own butt
100,
moving.
100. I agree 100%. It's just like I have what I have maybe like 60 Coleman lanterns back there that are easy $40 a piece. You know what I mean? I have, because
Coleman
remember
lanterns,
that huge
yeah.
lot I got. I still got a bunch of them left. They're just I can't even get to them right now. They're tucked in the corner. Yeah.
I have one of my death pile behind me, and it's been in the background for quite a while.
But
before we get into the main topic, should we just talk about the comments from the last episode?
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so I'll do it wrong because it's right here. It says, "No, Scott said all this while I was typing it out, but I typed it out and I'm leaving it. LOL." Okay, so let's see what he says. If you have a seller who's way too high, you can in price, you can do I'm thinking about telling you no. Okay, so I'm trying to read this. So this is what he's thinking in his mind. Wince while you suck air through your teeth. So he's given the perception that he's talking about saying no to it. You know what I mean?
He's doing the awkward silence negotiation technique.
Yeah, so the guy's giving him a price.
I want 20. And then you just sit there and go, oh. And if you wait long enough, sometimes the price will drop for you. Well, I've seen that for sure.
Let's see what he has to say. Okay. But I can see that. It's just like you're almost saying like, ooh, like that's way high, right? But you're doing it through actions. So then draw a breath. It's like if you fake your shaky hands in a poker game, like you're really excited because you got a big
that, yeah. It worked really well.
So you can tell if they're faking or if they're real. Then draw a breath. Silent signals help. From there, if you don't budge, you know that you're selling it to you that day.
Yeah, if they don't budge,
they're not selling it to you. What's that, Carl?
That's right. Yeah, no, it's just exactly what he said. If they don't try to fill that awkward silence with like lower prices, he's saying here there's a good chance you're not going to get it any lower.
If they're still standing there, I'm still going to give an effort. But if they walk away, it's like whatever, right? So, but if you push, you insult them. So what you do is today is a no, but I'll tell you what, if you don't get what you're asking, I'll give you, here's my info. I'm really interested in all these, so I'd be willing to discuss something larger. Give me a call or shoot me a text. I can get these into the hands of folks who really enjoy them. I've used that line too. I like that.
And that's what he's saying about earlier when he said, "Oh, I was typing this out and you just said it." So that's the same point, which is good because it's like people are saying the same advice.
And I'll just say they'll be appreciated. I use different lines, but it's all the same thing. But enjoy them as much as you did, and and I use that especially if they're selling off, like say, unfortunately, but a parent had passed away, like. This stuff is going to be appreciated. Like it's not going to somewhere who's going to throw it in the dump or anything. And sometimes though, like people still like are into that, and I'm like, like they like this. It's nostalgic for them, or give them some sort of. Yeah. I don't want to upplay it too much, but I mean, just by listening or reading this comment, I all these scenarios, I can relate to. You know what I mean? Like I can see different people saying. Dealing with this kind of thing, and the sucking in the teeth, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I said, people hate awkward silence, so they'll try to fill it.
I'm gonna be like very self-conscious now. I'm gonna like, doing it wrong. Said I was gonna do like that. Like he says that
he's saying that
happened, right? And I'm like, geez, I'm doing exactly what he said.
Well, he's saying that's what his technique is. So you're both in the same court.
No, exactly, for sure. But I'm gonna be coming back to, my mind is gonna stray back to this comment.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm like, oh shit, that's it. That's how many people do this. I'm actually as bad as those people that say, oh, I'm an antique. Do you want me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I'm saying the same thing that they've heard 20 times and I'm thinking I'm original.
We all fall into these categories, man. If you see a guy in a pickup truck or a car with a baseball cap, man in the 40s to 50s running around garage sales. They're a reseller.
That's me. That's totally me.
If you see someone walking around like in an estate sale with like an IKEA bag or something like that, they're a reseller. Yeah. Come on, we just fall into these categories.
If you see the truck overflowing with stuff in the back,
they can't see out the back. You have a reseller.
They're a reseller.
Maybe we should do that.
If you help someone carry items to their vehicle, and then when they open the door, it's completely jammed full. They're a reseller. You know,
If you see
I
someone
love that. I love that one where, you know, you get something like super cheap
yeah.
and like it's a bunch of stuff, a few boxes, and you're like, oh, you know, I just kind of like this kind of stuff. I just do it as a small hobby. I'm not too, you know, and then they carry it to your truck and you open the trunk and it's completely jam full.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm gonna have to throw that in the back. I got no room here. And then you open up the back, you pull down the tailgate, and all of a sudden it's completely full, and you're
Can't
they're like
hide it
looking at you
anymore.
like, this is just a little hobby. This looks like
Yeah.
a disease, like an illness.
Oh man, there's probably 1,000 signs we could go through. Yeah.
Oh, hey, once it's paid for and purchased, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep going.
Deal's done.
Yeah. But all right, buddy. So doing it wrong,
Okay.
awesome comment. I like that, and for sure. And I guess Carl, do you want to read Randy's comment?
Randy, yes, he made a little comment. He says, Scotty, I do think you're frustrating Carl a little bit, but Carl, you're too analytical. Negotiation is a soft skill. I suggest you go yard sailing Scotty a few weekends. Oh yeah, I'm sure he'd love that, but he's so far away. It's not a practical thing.
You're welcome here anytime, Carl.
Yeah, I'll just get in my little car. Yeah. But you know, it was funny that you mentioned this, Randy, because like I was listening to the podcast after, and I was like, man, I so want things to be black and white. Like it's just the way I am. And I was trying to pin Scotty into a corner, and he's like weaseling out left and right. But basically, because Scotty's right, it's like it is definitely a soft skill. It's not black and white. It really depends on the situation. And so yeah, no, Randy, your comment is valid. And I'm actually going to look into that book you mentioned, Influence by Robert B. I can't say that.
Saladini.
Yes, sure. So that might help me a bit. So thank you so much for the comments, guys. We really appreciate it. So
yeah, no, I appreciate it too. The comments. And one thing that maybe I didn't mention last week that I'm kind of thinking about now, but when you're talking to them, like look them right in the eye. You know what I mean? Like,
oh,
right. I look straight in the eye and I'm confident. Like I'm like, you know what I mean? And don't break that eye contact. That might be another one that maybe I'm thinking about before, but you know, it's kind of like who breaks eye contact first type thing. Right? Like
I look at my shoes.
Hold that gaze, right? So
yeah,
you know, because
I'm just hoping it's like you said, these skills will come to me the more and more I do it. The thing is, I'm avoiding doing it, so you can't get better if you don't go out every chance you have. Or you come back after 10 minutes and you say, screw this. And then you send a nasty text to Scotty saying, this sucks. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Eye contact is really good. That's it's a domineering thing in a way, not in a negative way, just in a kind of like taking control of the negotiation.
Yeah. And you're if they look away, I'm going to notice that more. Like, cause I'll look them right in the eye and I'll talk, right? Like I'm talking straight to them. But I'm going to ask them a price. And if they look down first, I'm going to try to figure out if they look away first, does that mean good or bad? You know, obviously if they walk away, that's bad. But if they, you know, but if they look down or away, like, do I usually get what I want? Are they like submitting in you know, in a weird sort of way? But
well, no, it's a human thing, right?
Right. So I'm going to pay attention to, I might write a book on the psychology of yard sale negotiation.
I would buy it. I would totally buy it.
But I'm going to really analyze like people's quirks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to pay more attention. So we'll see how that goes. I don't want to digress too much into it, but we'll see how that goes. It could be interesting. But yeah, body language and all this kind of stuff. You know,
I watch stuff like that, and not to get into, we should get into the topic, but
okay, I just want to tell a little quick. I want to tell a quick story. Okay. So some people can sometimes completely fool you, right? I remember I went to this estate sale. It was during a yard sale. Like I was just driving around, but it happened to be an estate sale, and they had everything out front in a yard sale format. Yeah. So I'm there, and this lady, She looked like a teacher. She looked like she was so proper. She had the big hat on to keep the sun off her.
Yeah.
And she just looked like one of these people that were that never swore, never anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of, we were probably the year after, like there was 1 year of the pandemic we really couldn't have yard sales, but it was probably after that. And I think they were holding on this stuff because maybe the person passed away during the pandemic. I can't really recall a whole lot, but I can just remember that she had some furniture. And I told her about the antique store in Waterford, and she goes, well, if you're interested in some furniture, I have some inside. So she was wearing the mask, she was wearing the hat, she was complete. So we go into her house, just a small little tiny house. It was an older one, whatever. And we get in there. She takes her mask off and she goes, and she swears. Like, she goes, oh, I hate the F word things. And she just takes it. She goes, if you don't want to wear it outside, but don't wear it inside. I was like, right. So, and she was swearing, and I'm like, that is not the person I thought I was dealing with. You know what I mean?
I've come across a few very angry grannies at garage sales.
She wasn't angry. She was actually very polite, but she was just like,
didn't expect that. Yeah.
Like, I didn't expect that word to come out of her mouth. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So like, on one hand, and I wasn't in that kind of mind frame, but I mean, thinking back now, like, she could have came across as that person that you could kind of steamroll over, like, oh, I'm paying $1. But when you get in the house, she's a truck driver. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I know what you mean.
Like, yeah. So sometimes you can just kind of misunderstand what people are. So anyway, I just had to say that because that was in my mind, and now I feel
better.
Now I feel better, Carl. Let's go on to the top.
Stories are good. So this week we're going to talk about antique booths.
Okay.
And what do you mean? Okay, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. No. Okay. Good.
Okay.
I like antique booths.
Yeah, I know. You talk about them once in a while. Not when you're reluctant to. I know, and you might put out a video once in a while showing off your booth. That's good on antiques and.
Yeah, I got to start doing more videos, just all over the board. But keep. Yeah. Okay.
So for people who probably know, but if they don't know, Scotty, you I think you said 9 years now. Is that right?
June will be 9 years. So like, I'm in my 9th year starting in June.
Right.
So,
and I started a small little one about 6 months ago, maybe, at the Nostalgia Warehouse here in Ottawa. And so that's my experience. So where do you want to start this out? Do you want to?
Well, I'll just give a little breakdown, if that maybe. I'm just thinking this as we go through it, Carl. But so when I started in it was kind of run down, but it was next to the one I'm in now. It's a large warehouse, and the ownership was divided in half. The one half is where I am now, but the other half is where I started. And I had a smaller kind of in the center. It was actually a pretty good location. But it was like 6 by 12 or maybe 8 by 12 kind of footage, but it was right in the center. So some of my older footage will show it, but basically it was very cheap. The place was dirty. Everybody complained about how dirty it was, and even now and then, if you didn't watch out, you could step in their little dog's poo. They tried to keep it clean up that way. But no, it was very run down and dirty, and the guy was a smoker, and he would walk around smoking in there. Super guy. Love the guy. He's passed away now, but he gave me my first break, and we were friends right up until he passed away. I would go and see him at the other place. Long story. Anyways, that's where I started. Learned a lot, met a lot of very knowledgeable people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were forced out of there because that building had sold. And then we went down to a smaller venue, but very knowledgeable and very picky as far as vendors. They had very high-end top stuff.
Right.
But because I did so well and I showed a lot of ambition, I was asked to come along to that store with them, and
nice.
was very thankful for that.
Yeah.
So at the same time I was doing that one, and I started the one where I am now, because they're also on a waiting list, so it was a while to get in there. And then eventually I just kind of moved to where I am now. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Waiting lists seem to be pretty common in a lot of these places.
Yeah, waiting lists are common. So I kind of just graduated up to bigger booths once I'm in there. Now I have 3 in there, and it takes a while to even get on the lower floor, which I'm part of now.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the difference between a lower floor booth, like on the main floor, compared to
Yeah.
upstairs. I mean, the sales is night and day. Like, it's crazy how much more better it is.
Okay. And like for me, like I said, I've had it for about 6 months. I can actually shut it down. And I'm going to talk about why I'm shutting down my little. It was more like a glass cabinet than a booth. I'll go into that. So, I guess when you picked your places, how did you decide on where to go? So
Well,
for me, it's because I knew the owner, and actually had been there to pick up stuff before, and I didn't have to make a big commitment. So that was kind of my priorities when I picked where I was going to go.
yeah. So the place that I picked is very close to me. It's about 10 minutes away. If I have to stop at Tim Hortons, it's 15 minutes away. But so, I never paid attention to it, but my dad actually had a booth there years ago.
Yeah.
He's passed away. And then from that, I kind of dabbled into it because of his stuff he had. And I don't know. I just walked in there one day. The nicer place where I am now, there was a waiting list. So I went next door, which was a little bit more shady. Not shady, not at all shady. Sorry, wrong word. It was just more dirty, and it was kind of like it was just different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, but they give me my shot right away. Like, sure, I have a little place here. I'll have it cleared off by the end of the month. You want to start? So, um, I just had great results and met amazing people, and still friends with some of them today. A couple of them had passed on, but yeah,
Yeah.
it just was like I was hooked once I did that.
As horrible as it seems like that happens to vendors that I've heard of quite a few, not like happening a lot, but passing on is definitely something that can occur because a lot of us are going to be in our, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be in their 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, I think you got a lot of ranges. Probably the youngest one that I know of in the booth that I'm in now is probably in her 30s.
Yeah.
And it just kind of graduates up, and then you're probably going to look at 30 to 50% are older, like you said.
Yeah.
And then the other I don't know, 70 to 50% are probably under 60.
Okay. So, you were talking about the time investment that takes you 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you get a coffee at 10. And for me in Ottawa, that would be a dream. That is not going to happen here. So in Ottawa, for people who don't know, is about 1 million people. And to get a booth like that, we do have the Ottawa Antique Market. Don't quote me on this, but I've heard anything from $500 to $1,000 a month it takes to rent those booths, plus your 10% on top of that. And like for me, that's not going to happen because even though it's relatively close by, I would be probably paying them every month just to sell my stuff. The Nostalgia Warehouse was much, much cheaper, but a much smaller location. If I have, because I can kind of picture. I've never been to your antique mall, but I can picture it because usually they're always in older buildings. They're always kind of warehousey. Like there might have been even a factory there or something like that. So it's big open spaces. And
Yeah,
there is
it definitely was a factory at one
it was a
point.
factory, yeah.
In the 1800s.
Yeah, I've seen your videos, but even then, that's the kind of buildings they tend to go to because they're there to make money too. Well, they should be there to make money, and so that's important too. And there are places like that around Ottawa, but for me, it would probably be an hour out. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he had a booth in Perth, which is about an hour away. And he said he actually shut it down because it was just too far. It was too much of a commitment to go out there. But hey, I know another guy who has a place in Carleton Place, about 45 minutes to go away. And he's like, he copies everything he says. Like, oh, it's doing really well. I'm doing, making really good money out of the booth really happy. And I know he lives where I live. So it's the same kind of distance. And so for him, it's not bad. I wouldn't mind driving out far as long as the cost of my time and the cost of the booth was low enough to make it worth it.
Yeah. So what I got now is a lot of square footage. So to fill that up, I need to go a couple days a week, right? To keep it full and because there's a lot of stuff selling. So I need to put a couple days into it. But depending on the size of the booth, so if I had to go an hour away, I'd probably have a less square footage and I'd go once a week. You know what I mean? But you can also take advantage of that too, Carl. Like, is there places to pick, like thrift stores or flea markets or things on the way there? Can you pick that market? Is there things there that can make it worth your while? So you can go on that kind of thought, right?
Yeah, the hard part of that too is like if it's so far away, it's hard to tell sometimes how much traffic a place might have. Like I'm sure that's a big key as well, because generally when I'm driving out there, it'll be during the middle of the day, like on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, where it's not the prime time, right? I'm not going to generally go out there on the weekends because they to really see what it's like. So that I'd find a little difficult to figure out how the traffic is at a place.
And I've heard people on YouTube talk about having 5 different locations, and they'll just fill up the van or the truck with a trailer, and they will hit in one day, they'll or 2 days, like they'll hit all their stores, refresh them, put new items in, and then move on. So they'll have like 10 by 10. So, I mean, my booths are quite much bigger, like square footage wise, I have quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if you had a 10 by 10 in 5 different locations and you're making $1,000 a month per location, it makes sense, right? Because now you're doing $5,000. You got 5 locations. Anyway, I don't know, kind of digressing there, but the distance isn't the big issue as long as you can justify. But for the most part, I'm very fortunate to have the best one around in my mind. So close to me. And why do I say it's the best? Because it's large. It provides a lot of, like, you can look at it as a vendor saying there's a lot of competition, but I look at it as there's a lot for people to come here to see. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of turnover of product. People don't want to come and see the same thing all the time. They like to see different things. And we have good vendors that keep their booths refreshed, looking full and turned over. We also have it's been around for probably close to 30 years. So we have a lot of people know about it. A lot of people come from the cities here. We have vendors that come from bigger markets, probably ones like not from Ottawa, but ones relatable to that one where they pay big rent, but they get big money and they come and pick from our store. You know what I mean?
Cherry pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally see that. Well, Adam talks about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And honestly, I did that as well. About 2 weeks ago, I went down to a weekend market they have, and I cherry picked a few digital cameras that I bought for $10 each, and I'll get at least 150 to 200 each. So
yeah,
you can do that.
A lot of people go out yard selling, and an antique booth is all about quick turnover. You can't worry about getting that magical dollar because you're paying rent. And if you keep that camera at a price where people aren't going to buy it, then, I think $10 on a $150 camera, I think you could have probably pushed out 25. You would have still bought it. But, right.
Yeah.
But, maybe they just didn't know. A lot of people don't even look at eBay. Like some of the older people, they just I picked this camera up at a yard sale for $1. I'll put $10. It'll move quickly. They have good experiences of things like that moving quickly. So they'll just keep repeating that. I know people like myself, I do eBay and the booth. So even though my prices are going to be lower in my booth, most likely, not all the time, but in a lot of situations, less than what I would do if I was putting that on eBay, I'm still determining my price based on what I found it on eBay to be roughly about. You know what I'm saying? I might just knock off 20%.
Basically what I was doing is I put in the same cost as I found on eBay for solds, but Canadian as opposed to American. So automatically gave it like a 20% or 30% discount as opposed to online. But then I don't have to ship it.
Yeah.
And I can, but and so for costs for your booth, like for me, it's obviously the cost of the space, but you're also paying a percentage of sales. For me, it was 10%. Is there any other costs that we're not thinking of here? Like,
well, I mean, sometimes
obviously inventory costs, but I meant like having a booth specifically.
well, no, not that I can think of. Like right now, I guess you pay your rent and I pay 13%. So if you're paying 10%, you're probably paying charges on debit cards and credit
Yes.
cards as well, which is
Yeah.
I don't know, 5% or something. They kind of cut that in half and added that to each sale. So now we pay 13%, but they don't give us those extra charges on those debit and credit cards. So those are all reflected in there. But that's pretty much it. I mean, so if you want to consider like theft as part of it, like it's very rare, but you know, things do go missing from time to time. So
I did have a problem with theft. Yeah.
So theft can also be like a hidden charge or fee.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? If you want to look at it that way.
I guess the other cost that some places have, I don't think yours does, is mandatory time in the store. Like some places will say, well, if you have a booth here, then you have to kind of man the front desk X amount of time. Like I don't have to do that. I don't think you have to do that. But that's another cost that some places do have.
Yeah, I don't have to do that at all. I'm grateful that we don't have to, although, you know, I go in and I help out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if they're busy when I'm there, I'll help out, or if they need somebody, I'll come in, but they usually pay me if they call me in. You know, if they need something, you know, built or like walls or something put up on a day that they're closed, I'll come in and do that as well.
Oh, wow. Do you ever spend, like, sometimes, like, when I'm going around, like, for example, just, was it yesterday or like last week? I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was on Monday, a few days ago. I actually went into the Ottawa Antique Market, and I noticed that quite a few booths have chairs in them, which to me means some of the booth people actually spend their Saturdays or Sundays there in their booths on purpose, just to have the interaction, maybe buy from other people coming in. Because I know, for example, Nostalgia Warehouse, I swear every time I went in there, someone was going in to sell stuff. And actually at the antique market, when I was leaving, someone said, oh, I got a truck full of cars and trucks and toys I want to get rid of. And then one was like, yeah, sure, bring them in. And I was like, oh man, I was jealous. They're just sitting there and getting inventory. But you don't do that, right? You never sit in your booth.
I don't sit in my booth. I'll go in and stand. I know we have some big weekends, like we have a pumpkin fest in the town of Waterford, and that's where the antique store is. So that is usually the biggest. That's bigger than Christmas. That's probably my best weekend ever. And sometimes they'll ask people to come in just to kind of hang out in your booth, maybe help out with the store if they need to be. It's not mandatory by any means, but it's also a benefit because a lot of people come in there that usually don't come into that store. So you can kind of like, maybe something's a little high. You can like, I know it's 100 there, but I could do 80 on that or something like that, right? Yeah. I could come down a little bit that on that price. So you're kind of marketing your booth a little bit, trying to get some more sales. I don't spend the whole day or the whole weekend by any means in there, but I might go in for a couple hours and just kind of hang out. A lot of times it's amazing how many people try to get into that booth, right? So first of all, you're just another person that could cause a potential buyer to walk by, or maybe you need to help somebody, or you just want to make sure people aren't busting things up. You know what I mean? One thing I like to do though, is I like to go into the neighboring booth and listen to people talk about my product. You know, oh, that's crazy high, or I haven't seen this. This is so nice. Whatever the situation is, it just kind of gives me an indication of how people are respecting or disrespecting the stuff in my booth. So I like doing that too. That's a little sneaky, I know, but
that's fine. You want to get an idea of what people think. And, you know, I wouldn't take any of that personally too. Like some people say that's a high price, no matter what price you put on there.
Yeah.
I guess another thing is, for your booth, like for me, I was supplied with a glass cabinet. I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
So for you just get an empty space, right? And
just an empty space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes like they did have, when I first came in there, a few glass display cases. I took advantage of them, and then eventually I moved them out because I either got my own or it didn't fit at the time. And then other people gobbled them up. But for the most part, like as it stands right now, everything that's in my booth as far as a shelf or a display case cabinet is mine, with the exception of one actually downstairs. I am using one of the store display cases, but yeah, for the most part, everything is what I've brought in.
And do you have stuff locked up?
Yep.
So if someone wants to see it, they have to go to the front desk and get the key, kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Upstairs there is a buzzer. I don't even know where the buzzer is. So most people don't. So they come downstairs.
Yeah.
What I've done is taken all my stuff that I locked up and put it downstairs because it's just around the corner from the cache. Where if it's upstairs, it is a deterrent. So even if somebody likes something, they don't want to, they don't want to walk downstairs, get a key, bug somebody, wait, get a key to, they bring the key up, then have to open it. Like,
and then they don't want it, and it's awkward. And
by the time they walk downstairs, they forgot about it anyway. You know what I mean? So it kind of does prevent sales. But I don't just lock it up for theft. A lot of times I lock things up because I don't want it broken. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be very frustrated. Or people open up new packaging.
Or, oh my God, yes, 100%, for sure.
Or they open up the toy box
all the time.
Yeah. Or they open a toy box and they're not careful and they ruin the box kind of doing it. You know what? Let's be honest. Sometimes people don't take care of their kids and they're running around and it's like, look.
I don't really have that problem with the kids. I understand your point 100%.
Yeah.
But every time I'm kind of there, they're always like, don't touch. You know what I mean? They've kind of given that. Or it's just like the kids are kind of respectful. Like if they get around the 10-year age where they're just kind of walking on their own while their parents are checking out other booths, though I've seen it where they go back, hey, look, there's this toy. And then they'll drag their parent back to, to buy the toy or to look at it anyway. But I haven't really seen anything like that. In fact, I like to see, 10-year-olds aren't really buying too much, but I like to see younger generation, like 15 to 20.
I like to see those collectors to grow up. And
I like to see them coming in because they're respecting, they see the cameras differently. They see them as maybe decorative or something like that, but they see art. They have a different way of viewing things. And I really like that. You know what I mean? Because they're enjoying I know my son's the same way. You see an old creepy doll or something that resonates with his movie making, or you know what I mean? They have a different reason to be there. So,
we always like new collectors coming in and just reviving things too, or like, I don't think there's been a big issue with kids. Like I have talked to Nostalgia Warehouse, and they said, okay, sometimes you're gonna have those people, but in general, if they're smart, they're not. There's some other like boobies and things hanging out in that store too. So if you can bring your kids there, you have to be kind of aware that it's not necessarily for children, this Nostalgia Warehouse, but I'm sure your parents bring their kids in anyways.
Yeah, there's, other than the Playboy books, which are usually they're wrapped, you know what I mean, and tape closed and put on a higher shelf.
But in some way, the past they were less concerned with risque stuff than we are nowadays.
No, 100%.
So you'll see like bizarre cigarette dispensers and like calendars, and
especially if they're from like France or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, the European countries seem to be even less worried about it.
They're not worried about that. It's like, what do they say? I shouldn't say it. Let's keep going.
Okay. But you got to think, if I've been doing this 9 years, people are like 10, 11, 12 then, or like 19, 20, 21 type thing right now. So So like, they're your potential future buyers, right? So, you want to make sure that they enjoy coming there and want to keep coming back, right? Because they're going to be your buyers in the future. I found, I would say like right now, there's a lot of younger people coming into the antique store. And I like to see that because
next generation,
it's the next generation, and they're actually kind of enthused and interested in what they see. You know what I mean? So,
reuse is really big, and that's great for us because a lot of it is reuse, and people want unique items.
Yes.
So much of it's generic now, and they want those cool items that are a little different, and they might not even be using them. They might just want them, like you said, for display or or points of interest. So there's definitely that, and they're going to find it at a big mall like you have.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of girls walking through there. So I have to make sure that I kind of get that art glass, or I get that, maybe they're buying a vase for grandma or something. I don't know what they're doing, but um, they like, I got to make sure that mine is just not like toy trains, and you know what I mean? Like, I like to put stuff in there for
A
everybody.
variety. Yeah.
So I'm not really super knowledgeable on that, but I kind of have a grasp on prices and what will sell. Depression glass and stuff like that. I mean, it's all over the board, but if I can get a very cheap lot of it and I can throw it in the booth, it seems to go. You know what I mean? So
has there been any lessons you've learned over the last 9 years?
Oh, I'm learning lessons all the time, dude. Like, I mean, where do I start? I don't know. I mean, I think I've mentioned on other shows, don't be afraid to put higher prices on certain things, like, especially if it's rare and stuff like that. But
not a garage sale.
But don't overprice your stuff. I think to overprice your stuff can be detrimental too, right? Like, when I go to a booth, I tend to go to the places that, I mean, I'm there for different reasons, but I think if you find a good deal, you're going to keep coming back to that booth. So I don't mind having that good deal in there and stuff, right? So
yeah, I guess you could be putting people off too. If you see something that you think it's worth 50 and you see it 100 and you see another thing like that and another thing, you might just leave the booth if you think it's overpriced. But like I was saying too, it's not a garage sale. Like, right. You got to make your booth rent back. So if you're going to sell things for $1 or $2, try to have as few of those things as possible.
I don't think I have anything for $1. Sometimes I put $2 or $3 on things, but I have a junk drawer where I have like an old drawer that has little spots for like knives and stuff. But I painted on it junk drawer, and I'll put in little packages like pins or just little things like a box of matches or something with a unique advertisement on it. And I'll put $2, $3, up to $5, put them in little bags, and I throw them in the junk drawer. And people will dig through there and they'll buy like 4 or 5 different things. I'll do my bottle openers, $3 to $5 for the bottle openers. But in a little box, I could sit probably 50 bottle openers. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take up any space, and they'll just dig through it and find the brand that they want,
Great return on your space.
Yeah.
So I kind of interrupted you. So is there any other lessons there that you think you've kind of learned over time?
I don't know. I mean, I've learned so much, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really even sure to where to start. Definitely pricing, maybe try to lock as little as up as possible.
Yep.
And don't be afraid of theft. I think we get too hung up on scams on eBay and thefts of the booth. If you want your stuff to sell, you got to display it and put it out there, and don't fear, don't be fearful of the theft. If you're experiencing a lot of theft, you're in the wrong store. You know what I mean? Because the owners have to kind of take a little bit of responsibility there, and ours do for sure. So, I mean, if you're in a position where you got to lock everything up, maybe you lock everything up, but hopefully your rent is very cheap because your sales are going to drop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're asking what I've learned. I think I've learned by being fortunate enough to be educated by a lot of very knowledgeable people that have been in the industry for a long time. That was huge. And I've benefited from being close within 10 minutes of a gold mine. You know what I mean? Like, of a place that is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look at your booth, is there priorities you have of what kind of stuff you want to get in there? Or how
priorities to me would be like highly collectible stuff. And I mean, war metals, like war stuff's going to sell, but it's got to be, priced properly. Signs, I mean, everything really sells, but if you know what, if it's an antique and it's got some sort of, if it can resonate with people, you quickly learn. Like, I mean, even pop bottles resonate with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't have to be super old. They can be 70s to 50s.
Oh, people care about nostalgia too, right? Yeah, exactly. It could be from the 80s.
I think condition means a lot. I think toys are really good. No matter where you go, toys are going to be good. I don't care if it's a $2 toy. If you get a whole box of toys, you cherry pick the good stuff. You either sell it on eBay or throw it in the booth, and then you just bag up the rest and put a $5 thing on it. Those $5 baggies of toys can pay for your whole lot, and you're profiting fully off of the gold. You know what I mean? The stuff you cherry picked. So I mean, everything can sell. You just don't want a whole entire booth of bags of $5 toys.
No. And like for me, like one of the reasons I'm shutting down my booth was because I found it really hard to pump out enough stuff. Well, mostly, honestly, Nostalgia Warehouse is great, but it's niched down to like toys and comic books. They have some vintage stuff like that, and I found I just couldn't source enough quality things to keep that booth going.
So I'm going to say, sorry, Carl, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to say it's like part of it too is I feel responsible to have great stuff in there because the person who runs the place also wants to have that 10% commissions coming through as well, right? He never pushed me or never said, "Oh, you need to change things up," but at the same time, to make the time investment, I felt that, well, okay, this is not working, but I had a really good taste of it all. And for me, the frustration was that since it was really a glass cabinet, I was spending a lot of time kind of taking one thing out and putting another thing in as well.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, for me, one of the reasons I wanted the booth was just what you were talking about, was the toys in the $5 to $10 range that don't do well on eBay, but could be put in a pile in the booth and pay for it. But unfortunately, the area was so small that I couldn't really do that without a lot of churning over of putting things in, and then someone would come in the next week and they wouldn't find it because it was too small. So in my case, it was like, yeah, it was cheap to have the small glass cabinet, but I'm actually making less money because it just wasn't efficient.
Well, I there's a couple theories there. So I always think the bigger the booth, the better. Like a lot of people get a little bit turned off because of the price of a big booth. Well, I mean, square footage wise, you're paying less because if you take a small, like a shelf, for instance, and how many shelves could you fit in my booth? You know, you're probably looking at $2,000 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm paying $760 a month for all my space, where I could fit hundreds of your cabinets in that space. And so, you know what I mean? So you're actually paying less per square footage if you get the bigger one. Now, if you have a bigger one, now you can buy and fill it with a majority of stuff. And if you have an eclectic thing, instead of just kind of concentrating on one area, so in my store, if all I had was toys, well, anybody else looking for anything else is going to walk by my booth.
Right.
So if I have a bunch of stuff, I'm kind of appealing to everyone that comes to the store, and I think that's what you have to do.
I think like in this case, eclectic would be better for me anyways, because I have more variety of stuff. It's like,
so I think the majority of the people right now are paying about $2 a square foot. I think we're a little bit less. I think we're paying that if you get like, one of the smaller booths. I think it probably equates to that, but I think the bigger booths are a little bit less than that.
Yeah, here it's not. You can't even compare.
Yeah,
I heard it's like $800 or $600 to $1,000, more like the $800 to $1,000. Not the Nostalgia Warehouse, but the Ottawa Antique Market for that, plus the 10%. You just couldn't. You'd have to pump out a lot of stuff to make it profitable.
Well, and I think I don't know. I don't run the store, so I don't know. Yeah. But my way of thinking is, if you're pricing your vendors, then you have the potential of losing good vendors, first of all, which is bad. But you're also forcing them to increase their prices, which may be forcing people not to come back. There are locations where I won't even go to because it's just ridiculous money, right? So I'm sure I'm not the only one. But if our store is rental-wise great, then sales wise, we're not forced to put those big numbers on our prices on our
Yeah.
items.
You don't
You know
have
what
the
I mean?
money going to the rent. You have the money going towards a cheaper price. And like honestly, the problem with this place is probably because like the area it's in is very expensive now. You can't the amount they're charging for rent might actually be appropriate for being in a major city on a main road. You know,
And I think antique stores have to keep in mind that there's a lot of people now that are going on online auctions. There's a lot of people now that are buying differently.
Mm,
So if you want people to come to your store, you have to know that there's a lot of competition right now in all sorts of different ways. So
yeah,
if you want that big collector and he's looking for his item, he can type it in
yeah,
without driving anywhere, and he could buy it in an auction, possibly cheaper, buy it on eBay. There's a lot of options out there. So you want to bring those people in and kind of get them to buy on impulse, right? So it's a
yeah.
different can of worms now than what it was before. So, I know you could say, well, if the area is a like a higher end area, I guess you'd say higher class, whatever. Um, maybe you can get those prices. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that or
You,
not. I think
you know,
people still like their
one thing that's true is that when they go to your antique market, they're going there. They're not passing by on their normal. They're not. There's probably a lot more buyers in ratio to lookers than there would be on the person on the main street, anyways. Because like if you're walking by, you might just let's go in and see what there is. But if they're going to your antique market, they're driving there specifically, and I would say there's a much higher chance of actually you selling, even though it might not get as much traffic as that major route. You're probably getting a higher number of actual buyers. I'm just guessing, but
Yeah,
yeah,
very well. And like, I mean, we have people driving an hour or 2 hours away
yeah,
just to come to the store. You know what I mean? Um, First of all, it's large, so I think the size of the store means a lot because they're going to come there and they're going to spend a couple hours to walk through it. You know what I mean?
they're gonna make a day of it, a Sunday or a Saturday of it.
Yeah, and they know that they're going to probably find something that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's not like 5 booths.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe if it's not exactly, it could be as good or better, or they're satisfied in getting something else. There's all sorts of reasons people buy. People buy because they're in the movie industry and they buy a lot of shit sometimes. They don't come in
Yeah,
often, but when they do, they buy a lot. You got people who are decorative of homes, people who have bed and breakfast, people who have like all sorts of businesses and they'll buy to decorate an area or for whatever reason. Then you got your collectors and then you got your maybe your film enthusiasts. Like there's all sorts of reasons people buy. So I don't know. Once you get them in their store, you want to keep them coming back, right? So
so, do you have any final tips that you give to someone who's thinking about getting into the booths?
I mean, I mean, there's a lot of things I could say beyond the tips, but if I
Yeah,
mean,
we can keep going. I didn't mean to end it there.
yeah. I mean, for as far as the tips are concerned, don't be afraid to. I mean, look at the booth, right? So if they're a very busy store,
Yeah,
maybe the price is right. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So when I say right is cheap, somebody might say 760 a month. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But when I look at my sales and how much square footage I have, I think it's perfect. When I sell on eBay, it helps me pick because, and I've said this before, because I can pick a whole bunch of different stuff and I can cherry pick what I want to put on eBay. I can keep my cost per or price per item at a certain level because anything lower than that, I'll throw in the booth.
yeah.
Something that might be questionable online as far as will I get a return or a negative, I'll put it in the booth. People are looking at it. They don't care if there's a little nick or something. But if I forget to disclose that in eBay or someone says, "Oh, I didn't
Oh
know it,"
yeah.
you know
No,
what I mean?
no.
Then so it provides me another option of getting rid of the stuff, and I love it. And I meet new people, and I get private picks based on it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now I'm going to start advertising my uh, my YouTube channel there. and hopefully that brings about more picks and more viewers. And also, I just think you can market it as part of your overall sale, YouTube, whatever you want to do, and you can market it all as one. And if you're making money at it, it's a win-win-win, you know.
Awesome.
But so tell me about your experiences there, Carl. Like what's going on?
So like I said, I'm shutting it down mostly because I couldn't keep it filled. I found it was a little too small. I got a taste. So I'm going to maybe potentially look at getting a booth outside of Ottawa. But honestly, I want to make sure I can source enough inventory to make it worth it. And right now, I don't feel I really have those connections to source enough. I think, you know, a booth isn't necessarily for everyone. And one of the things I really like about eBay, even opposed to like Facebook Marketplace, is I don't have to deal with anything unless I want to, except for shipping, right? So like for shipping, you have to do it X on day. But if I don't want to list, I don't have to list. If I don't want to put, you know, if I don't want to source, I don't have to source. And with the booth, there's a much more, there's an external responsibility to make sure that it's good stuff is going in there. Make sure I go in once a week or even more to refresh it. There's the physicality of moving all the stuff. It's the physicality of like having shelving units and all that. Or I could just sell things on eBay. So for me, I'm not going to rush back into another booth. I had a taste though, and I like it. I think if the right opportunity came up, I would take it. If we moved closer to one, I would definitely take it up. But if I had to drive an hour out, depending on the costs, we'll see. But I also, like I said, for me, it's a sourcing thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a topic we could talk about another. I don't want to.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like for me, when I go shopping or when I source, I'm looking at eBay. I'm not looking to source for a booth, and that's a different item. It's not completely different. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I will have less of those interest in the $5 to $10 items. Where if I can get that $5 to $10 item for like $1, and I know I can sell it for $5 to $10 in the booth, I might just pick it up just because. Where right now I won't pick it up. So there's that whole market I'm missing out on.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be my priority. I'm just saying, like, say I get a big bag of stuff, right? If there's something worth $4 or $5 in that bag,
that's it.
Right,
yeah,
I'm donating it back because it's not worth it. But if you can go into my booth and my cost is kind of in a way zero because there was something else in the bag I actually did want, then it makes sense for me not to donate it and put the stuff in the booth.
Yeah. So I want to kind of correct maybe what the impression I was giving on that is that I have an eclectic amount of stuff there. So I'll have art for $200. I'll have, a lot of things in the $60 to $100 range.
Yeah.
A lot of local advertising or books or things like that can get into the $15 to $35 range. I don't so when I say I can put stuff lower than $30, I don't fill my booth up with that kind of stuff.
No.
But it gives me an option for that kind of stuff. Because at the same time, I'm trying to stay away from a lot of that stuff. But if I can pick a box of something up for like $5 and there's $300, $400, $500 worth of stuff if you piece it out, like that's like bottle openers.
Openers are perfect,
and they're highly collectible, right? Little pins.
And if someone's in your booth and they see a bottle opener, they might not bother buying that online. But if they see it in your booth, it's like, oh, it's $5 for the one with a Looney Tunes character on it. Sure, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go and order it off eBay and get it shipped and everything, right?
So, yeah, definitely. And you kind of, but there's a lot of expensive stuff in my, like I have a fishing spear for $500 or, you know what I mean? Or a video game for $125, like a in a box, PS1 in the box, complete, working, tested, everything like that. Some folk art stuff that are in the $200-$300 range. So I have a little bit of everything. It's not just the cheap stuff. So I wouldn't want listeners to think that.
No.
I have it across the board. You know, I just sold a ship steering wheel for $200 the other day, and I'm going to go put another one in there, right? Because I had 3 of them. So
yeah. There's no way you're shipping that on eBay.
yeah, I'm not going to ship that on eBay for sure.
For $200, it probably wouldn't be worth it on eBay because after all the fees on the shipping and everything and the time,
yeah.
But in the booth, you can put it in. So yeah, so the booth gives you definitely a much wider range of values that you can put in. There's no reason not to put the expensive stuff in there too. I think if I was going to choose, it'd be like, okay, this thing probably has very little local demand. Like this Shreddies character, this little Shreddies figure. Well, someone might come in and spend $250 on this Shreddies figure, but much more likely this Monster in My Pocket will sell online.
Yes,
because people are willing
for
to
sure.
Look for it there.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm also learning that there's things that sell quicker out of the booth and for as much money than they do on eBay. You know what I mean? Like you kind of learn your clientele, and there's some things that once I get things a little sold down, I've already done the work and listed on my eBay, so I'm not in a rush to take them off there because I've already done that work. But once I get things settled down a little bit, there's a few things on eBay I'm actually going to take off eBay and put in the booth. One thing I did was the metal fish. I had a bit of a higher price on eBay. It was a welded sculpture considered folk art. I think I got 125 or maybe slightly higher, but let's say 125 for it.
Yeah.
I had it for $200 on eBay. I threw it in the booth and it sold very quickly. You know, so for $125, you know, a fast nickel is better than a slow dime type thing, right? So
and no shipping it, no dealing,
no shipping it, 100%.
No worry that's going to get there or damage on the way. And
but you know what? When you look at the
physically see stuff and touch it as well.
And when you look at the picture when you look at the item in a picture on eBay, it doesn't do it justice.
No.
But this thing was probably 2.5, 3 feet, probably 3 feet long. You set it on a shelf or on a cabinet so people can see it in front of them.
Yeah.
It was a skeleton, but it looked like a huge life-size pike, but just a skeleton made out of welded steel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
if you see it from the customer's aspect,
100%. Yeah.
You can see why they just prefer picking. If they're going to get something like that, they're going to look locally too.
Yeah, and it shines. You know, if I put a watch made of gold on eBay, it's going to look a lot better than if I put it in the booth and it's this tiny little watch kind of stuck, you know, in a display case that they've kind of glossed over because it's packed with other stuff.
Yeah.
They don't see it. But if you put it online and they're looking at a Bullevold 14 karat gold watch, they're like, wow, that looks really nice because you can, you know what I mean? So things have different perceptions based on the photos and in real life. You know what I mean? So, and they can't. So I think your booth, in my mind, the booth helps my eBay and my eBay helps my booth. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because
they're not necessarily fighting each other.
They complement each other.
Yeah. And one item might sell them both just as well. And you can nothing
100%.
stop you from taking it out of the booth and trying it online or in the inverse too, right?
Yep.
So
100%.
The nice thing with the booth is there's less of that prep work as well. Basically, you figure out your price, you might clean it, make sure it's there, but you have to do all that stuff with eBay anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. So, I don't really know. I think that's about all I can really say about the booth now. I love it. I don't plan on not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anything, I may even square footage wise grow. I don't know. Like, you know,
take over the building bit by bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, that one step at a time, right? So,
that's awesome.
But yeah, we'll see. I mean, right now, well, obviously the sales are very good. But I really like the owners. It's a mother and daughter combo. Mostly, you know, the daughter is there most of the time. Very accommodating, friendly, still business. It's all business, but you know, easy to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I go in there and help out when I can, and they're always accommodating. So I don't mind doing that because like they're so good to me, right? So I mean, that really makes a big difference and happy. If all the other vendors are happy, you know what I mean? The store's happy. People are going to deal with their stuff and make sure that it's presented nicely.
Yeah.
So, and well, I mean, rambling on too, but if someone is getting, I wouldn't say kicked out, but kind of told they have to ship up or ship out type thing, like they have to change a little bit. At the end of the day, it's benefiting everybody else too, right? If you have someone who's not pulling their weight in the store, it's going to eventually reflect everybody in the store. So,
yeah,
as sad as it can be because there's good people, but if they're not doing well, why be there, right? Because
it's not a storage unit,
and it's not a storage unit, and a lot of times it ends up becoming that, right? So. Yeah. So anything you want to add, Carl?
No, I think one last question, I guess, is it okay if the person running it has their own booth there?
I have no problem at all.
No problem with that. That was the only kind of thing I was thinking. I don't have a problem with that either. It's just
as long as it's representative of the stuff there, and they're not just. I mean, as long as they're not just trying to sell stuff of their own, and it becomes a shitty
number one priority. Yeah,
like I think all the booths have to represent, someone who's there because they're enjoying the picking and the antiques and the look, and they're as long as that booth is as good as all the others, for sure. I have no problem with that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. Hopefully, maybe people will comment and add some extra things we didn't think of. So for next week, we've already figured out a topic. We talked in advance. It was pretty good. So we're going to hopefully, we're going to talk about live auctions, and we're going to talk about online auctions, and we're going to talk about some of our tips and tricks
and experiences.
And it's my favorite way of sourcing as well.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want to add before we head on out?
No, I think that pretty sums it up. I mean, we always kind of go a little long-winded. I think I'm a little more long-winded than you are sometimes, but just tell me to be quiet.
Oh yeah, I gotta totally do that. Yeah.
Settle down. No, I'm glad. I like hearing comments. Doing it wrong, and Randy had comments. So if anybody wants to leave a comment, we'll be happy to read them and go over them and give our responses to them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm good, Carl.
Yep, that's it. See you all later.
Okay, and we're here every Friday at 10 a.m. on Spotify and YouTube, Reseller Evolution. And until then, have a good week.
Tell a friend. Thanks, everyone.